some years ago out of the need to bridge the gap between knowledge and policy. So we believe that the events today are an embodiment of that desire, of that ambition that we set forth to achieve some time ago. So what we do, we bring citizens-driven evidence into decision-making processes. So we are happy to, talk about the partnership we have with the Afrobarometer. I think this partnership started about 7 years ago, and this is the third iteration of citizens-driven data that we are gathering, dating as far back as 2018, when we started the journey with them. We are here to share the findings, the Afrobarometer findings. A lot of people say, if democracy, then human rights. That was in the 90s. But now a number of people say, if democracy, then development. So democracy or whatever governance system that you have can only translate into development if citizens' feedback is actually listened to and acted upon. Because citizens are critical players in the development journey. So today we are here to share round 10. Round 10, I think we've done 5 iterations. Actually, IGR has done 3 iterations. The Campaign for Good Governance did the first 2 iterations, and IGR took the baton after we've done 3 iterations now. So that's what Afrobarometer does all the time. So there's a possibility for other organizations to take after IGR and do this likewise. So welcome. I just want to say, in the context where we live, data can be interpreted by anyone. But what we pride ourselves to be doing at any time is to ensure that we bring to bear the highest integrity in our data collection and dissemination process. So feel free and enjoy the next 1 hour, 30 minutes if you like, because we know that today is Juma. Some of us will be going for prayer, so we'll be ending the program before, maybe either before noon or just shortly after that. So thank you very much for coming. I think that's the usual thing always to do.
African non-partisan survey network, and what we do mainly is to provide reliable data on Africans' experiences, evaluations, expectations about a host of issues, including democracy, governance, corruption, social issues, economic-related issues. I usually say we have data on almost everything that concerns the everyday lives of an African. Now, why do we do this? Our goal is to ensure that when important policies are being made, the voices of the ordinary African would reflect in these policies. And so we make this data that we collect available to policymakers. Yesterday we had a meeting with government and some of the state agencies. We also make the data available to our development partners. We also met yesterday with some of the development agencies and embassies in the country. But also for CSOs, so that when you are driving your advocacy campaign, you have evidence from the people to guide your work, and also with the media, the academia, and basically the ordinary citizen. We started in 12 countries in 1999, and over the years we've grown our footprints to about 42 countries so far. Now we conduct our surveys in what we call rounds. So for each round, we go round, the number of African countries that we want to survey. The more we are done, we move on to the next round. So we've completed 9 rounds of surveys so far since 1999, and we are currently rounding up our 10th survey. And so we've already even started planning for our 11th round of surveys. Now this map shows a snapshot of Afrobarometer's footprints. So like I mentioned, we started in 12 countries, and so those 12 countries are the ones that we shaded red, right? But for each round, we always keep adding new countries. And so the countries shaded green are the countries that we added in round 10. The areas shaded gray are the places where we've not been able to survey yet, and it's usually based on different reasons. It could be because of the political atmosphere. If it's not too safe, we don't want to put our national partners in danger. Also, it could also even be because of the unavailability of reliable census data. Because in every country where we work very closely with the statistical service to map out the immigration areas, and they help us ensure that our samples are nationally representative. And so if the census data is too old or it's not reliable enough, we're not able to conduct these surveys. Now, how do we do the work that we do? We usually say that our samples are nationally representative, and we speak to adult citizens who are 18 years and above. We have a rigorous protocol that we follow to ensure that every adult citizen has an equal chance of being selected. Our surveys are face to face, and we go through. Sometimes you have to climb mountains, sometimes you have to cross rivers, because we need to get to the people. And like I said, because we work with the statistical service, we try to ensure that, we do ensure that the sample that we have is in proportion to the rural-urban divide and also the regional divide. And so, for instance, if Freetown, for instance, has about 30% of the country's population, that will reflect in the sample. And so if the map that we have shows that we have to go to this particular place and it means crossing a river or climbing a mountain, just so that those people have a say in policy making, we do that. Now, in every country where we work, we have what we call a national partner. And in Sierra Leone, our national partner is IGL. They are the Afrobarometer in this country. So they are in charge of the data collection. We work with them to clean the data, and then they are also in charge of disseminating the data to key stakeholders like you. They do this with support from our regional headquarters. So we have 3 regional hubs, one in Ghana, the Ghana Center for Democratic Development, which is in charge of overseeing Afrobarometer's operations in West Africa, Francophone Africa, and North Africa. And then there's the Institute for Justice and Reconciliation in South Africa that oversees operations in Southern Africa. And then there's the Institute for Development Studies in Kenya that also oversees operations in East Africa. Now, we usually have a standard questionnaire. So for all these countries, we ask similar questions so that at the end of the day, when we are done with each round, we can actually pick the themes and compare the answers that we have, according to countries or according to regions. But we also, for each country, we have specific slots that are reserved for the country. So we call them the country-specific questions. And those are trending issues in that country that are not necessarily, happening in other countries. So for instance, for this round in Sierra Leone, we have questions about child marriages, we have questions about the popular drug push, and other issues that are related only to Sierra Leone that you will, for instance, find in the questionnaire for Ghana. And then we ask some of these standard questions over time. There are some questions that we've been asking consistently for more than a decade. And so that also helps us to track the changes in attitudes and expectations over time. And the team will be showing you some of these trend analysis, especially when it comes to Sierra Leone's views on government performance, how it's changed from 2012 to 2015 to 18, and etc. Now, the findings that we're going to be sharing were from the surveys that were conducted between March and April 2025, and we used a sample size of 1,200, which yields a margin of error of plus or minus 3 percentage points. Usually, people go like, but how do you go and speak to just 1,200 Sierra Leoneans and come and say that this is the view of all Sierra Leoneans. Remember, I talked about how we ensure that our sample is nationally representative. So let me give you just a simple example. You know how when you go to the hospital and you want to test whether you have malaria, you don't have to drain out all your blood to check if you have malaria. It's just an example. The little blood that comes represents everything that is in there. Also, the women, when we are cooking our soup and want to check if the salt is okay or we should add a little pepper, we don't drink all the soup to know the taste. But if you stir it properly and take just a spoonful, you get an idea of what the entire soup tastes. So the key is in the stirring, how properly you stir it. And that is what we do with our sampling, to make sure that it's nationally representative, so that the data that we get represents the views of all Sierra Leoneans. I think I will end here. Thank you very much.
CSOs and Indian civil society. I mean, I can just think about just a flashback of how we started 12 years ago. I need to look at these numbers, but you also consider the capacity transfer that comes with it. So on that note, I'll just share with you the findings of it. They are saying that the country is heading in the wrong direction. 6 out of 10 Sierra Leoneans, 58% are saying that the country is heading in the wrong direction. And when you compare this with the results we had in 2022, 67%, which was 67%, it's a 9 percentage point reduction. Depending on where you sit in Sierra Leone, you can say, no, this number, it should be more than this, it should be 80%. Depending on where you sit, you will say this number should be way less than 58%. But this is what we have. Fewer than, a quarter of citizens describe the country's economic condition as fairly good and very good. Bear this number in mind. Less than a quarter of Sierra Leoneans are saying that the country's economic condition is fairly good and very good. Just less than a quarter of Sierra Leoneans. And approval ratings on the number of indicators of government economic performance have declined compared to 2022. And this includes living standards for the poor, creating jobs, narrowing income gaps, that's between the rich and the poor, narrowing the gaps between the rich and the poor. So when you look at the number of indicators, Freddie will share with you the number of indicators that we use to, we floated to citizens for assessment, 13 of them, and you can see the results in a bit. So, but majority of citizens are satisfied with government's efforts in improving security, healthcare, and education. Majority of citizens are okay with that. Security, health, and education. So, and again, the perception of government tackling inflation and managing the economy improved. So between 2022 to 2025, the perception, the number of Sierra Leoneans that are saying that government's tackling of inflation and managing of economy, they are saying it's improved. Versus right direction. The number of Sierra Leoneans who are saying that the country is moving in the wrong direction. Look at the graph. 2012, when Afrobarometer started, to 2025, we started off with 53% of citizens saying it's going in the wrong direction, it's going in the right direction. Now it's only 40% saying that the country is going in the right direction. It was 53% then, now it's only 40%. The highest time Sierra Leone has enjoyed the number of citizens actually saying that the country is going in the right direction is in 2012, which was 53%. And we had the biggest dip in 2015. And of course, we have not completely recovered. Country's economic conditions, when you want to take that?
So on the country, how do you describe the present economic condition of the country? And this is saying, so you have the red line that's saying it's fairly bad or very bad, the yellow line where it's saying that it's fairly good or very good. And so you see that the country's economic condition, just 23% of people that are saying that it's fairly good or very good. So back to the issue of what Andrew was saying at the beginning, that people are not too happy, and that's putting it positively. They don't believe that the country's economic condition is promising, is very good. Similarly, we asked about people's personal living conditions and asked them, how would you describe your present living conditions today? 33%, so a third, say that it's fairly good or very good. We can see that when we started in 2012, 44%, it went down to 21% in 2015, rose in 2018 to 35% when new government came in, went down again in 2020, and now we're at 33%. So that's still not very many people that are saying that it's fairly good or very good. Compare that, again, 55% of people are saying that things are fairly bad, very bad. So that's over half of Sierra Leoneans that feel that their own present living conditions are fairly bad or very bad. In this one, we're asking about how people rated economic. You see 52% of people that are saying, compared to 12 months ago, things are worse or much worse. Yes, God did, we feel things will change. And people are saying, well, in 12 months' time, we actually feel that things would be better, much better. So 51% of people saying, in 12 months' time, it's going to be better or much better.
Approval of government performance. There is a reason why I want you to pay attention to this data, with no derogation intended from my colleagues from the eastern part of Freetown. But there's something they call Eastern logic in Freetown, where you don't use data to argue, you just use circumstance. Say Mohammed Kalon is wealthier than Oponwea. So how can you say that when I stay very close to Mohammed Kalon's house and he passed at my place at any time he's going to his house, so I am authoritative on Mohammed Kalon. So for the media that is here, let all of us cultivate the habit of using numbers to counter argument, using data. It doesn't have to be IGR, it might be other information, other sources of information. I'm really encouraging it because the more we do this, the deeper our quality of democracy, the more members of parliament use data to debate, the better the quality of democracy. So this, on that note, will present to you the 2025 performance of government on 13 indicators, starting with preventing or resolving violent conflicts, where we thought citizens, in the eyes of citizens, sorry for mentioning that, in the eyes of citizens, 72% of the citizens surveyed actually said that government is doing fairly well or very well in preventing conflict, preventing or resolving conflict, followed by addressing educational needs, which is 69%, reducing crime, 64%, and improving basic health care services, is 53%. And what's the news here? It's only 4 of the 13 indicators that we surveyed on that we saw over, above 50% of citizens saying government is doing fairly well or very well. The rest of the 9 other indicators, fighting corruption is 44%, maintaining roads and bridges is 40%, keeping prices stable, 36%, down to narrowing gaps between rich and poor, creating jobs, 22%. So this is the data, this is what citizens are saying. Economic indicators, and then we try to see how successive governments have fared over time in managing the economy, keeping prices stable, narrowing the gap between the rich and the poor. So you can see from this data, on managing the economy, when you compare 34% now to 52% in 2012, by 2018 it was 43%. You saw that the country actually celebrated that maybe, just maybe, the economy could be better managed, but it's actually, it plummeted to 18%, and it has not recovered properly. The same, it was 44% by 2018, 2012 for improving living standards of the poor. Now it's 24%, from 44 to 24. By the time Afrobarometer started to now, it's a 20% point drop in improving living standards of the poor. Same with creating jobs. It was 48%, it's 22%. So you can see it's a 26 percentage points drop in creating jobs. We did not ask the question on keeping prices stable in 2012. So you can see that's one economic indicator that is having an upward trajectory, keeping prices stable. In fact, when we are brainstorming amongst us, we say, why is that data changing? Is it because of the negotiation that was done for the price of rice, and there has been some investment in onion production? Is that what is translating into citizen satisfaction with managing prices? The same with narrowing income gaps.
Thank you, Andrew. This shows you changes in the approval of government performance. It's showing you where citizens are perceiving that government has handled particular issues fairly well or very well. And so you can see here that keeping prices stable, going back to Andrew's point, is one area that's improved by 27 percentage points. The other ones are preventing or resolving conflict by 5 points, managing the economy, it's gone up just a little, 2 points, and reducing crime, 1 point. So this is a change from 2022, when we last had the survey done, to 2025 now, when we've done the survey. So you can see, however, on the majority of indicators, percentage has declined. So this means the percentage, there's a change in the numbers of those, percentage numbers of those, who say that government has handled these issues fairly well or very well. Improving basic health services has declined by 5 percentage points. The number of citizens that believe that government has handled this fairly well or very well in 2022 to 2025, that's gone down by 5 percentage points, as has improving living standards of the poor, addressing educational needs, narrowing income gaps. So you can see all the numbers all the way down. At the bottom of the graph is fighting corruption. The perception that government is handling the issue of fighting corruption well or very well has actually declined by 14 percentage points, which is quite a significant drop. And we'll talk a little bit about that as the presentation goes along. Maintaining roads and bridges is this next steepest decline. Water and sanitation services, providing a reliable supply of electricity. These have all dropped between 2022 and 2025. So this takes us to the next set of data that we'll be showing, which is where we're in more detail, given that that is the steepest decline that we note in terms of citizens' perception of government performance in handling particular issues. When it comes to corruption, key findings for us is that when you look at key public institutions and leaders, those that are perceived as the most corrupt are police, with the highest number, business, coming high, members of parliament, tax officials, and local government councillors. So these are our top that people perceive. It's not saying that they are corrupt, right? This is saying that this is how citizens perceive them to be. Then we have a rise in the number of people that fear retaliation. Okay, the perception that you fear retaliation if you report. 30% believe that people can report corruption without being afraid. So that's actually gone down. So more people say that they are afraid that there will be repercussions. The other thing is that 53%, so a majority of citizens, are saying the government is not doing a good job of fighting corruption, which is twice the level of disapproval that was seen in 2018. So, to take you through the numbers, we have over 7 in 10 citizens that say police are involved in corruption. Then half, right, over half, 51% of citizens are saying that business executives are involved. Members of Parliament are next, tied with tax officials at 49%. And then we have our politicians, local government councillors at 41, civil servants 37, the judges, so the judiciary is 36% that believe that they are involved in corruption. The presidency 35%, NGOs 24%, traditional leaders and religious leaders at the bottom. So again, this is not saying that these are corrupt people. This is saying citizens are asked, how many of the following do you think are involved in corruption? And this is the percentage of people that say most of them or all of them. Okay, Andrew.
Thank you very much. So one of the papers we'll be doing after this will be why it is happening. We'll be trying to find out, especially around a particular data point we will share later on in subsequent dissemination. But what is disturbing here, look at the first three in 2025. The police 73, business executive 51, and 49% parliament. Tax officials is 49%. So every day we hear Sierra Leoneans saying we're going to IMF, But citizens are saying there are perceptions about tax corruption and tax officials. So, and I think it's good to put this data at the back of the mind, especially at a time when so the US, for example, is saying, don't come here. And a lot of citizens are actually wanting to go out. So you can see the change that happened. Police, when we compare 2012 to 2025, we can see there is a 4 percentage point increase. At the time, from the time AB started asking this question to now, there's a 4 percentage point increase. 69% in 2012, 73% in 2025. For business executive, so when we compare 2022 to 2025, we saw like a 6 percentage point increase between that time to this time. Members of Parliament likely stayed the same. It was 49% at the last time we asked the question, and it's 49% now. But when we started in 2012, it was only 41% of Sierra Leoneans that we are saying that members of Parliament are either most or all of them are corrupt. That's what was said at the time. So you begin to see, I don't know, we have not established relationships at the moment, but we can see, I just got some data on African-wide data on business executive, and it's good. Jukes, you are the one building capacity of businesses. Sierra Leone it's one of the 4 countries that is above 50% of citizens saying that business executives are either, most of them or all of them are corrupt. It's very high among many other African countries. The risk and the retaliation, this is how corruption is measured. And this really implies the liberty that citizens have to participate in the fight against corruption. Can you report without fear? Do you fear the risk of retaliation? So those 2 indicators. So we can see a downward trend. We actually need more and more people to say, I can report corruption without fear. So the time we started is to 37%, now it's down to 30%, 7 percentage point drop. So you can see between the last time we took the data, 2022, 34% to 30% now, 4 percentage point drop at that time. But yet you see the risk of retaliation systematically increasing by 10 percentage points from 2012, 59 to 2025, 69, almost 70% now, as I tell now. Then that actually explains why we have this curvy graph, this interwoven graph. As a matter of, so there are 2 lines. The red line is fairly bad and very bad. That is government performance on fighting corruption. So mind you, it's useful to note that within the time from the last survey to this survey, look at the events that happened. So there was a big news about the issue of the Auditor General. So there was a big news about the issue of the Clerk of Parliament. There were other big news. So governments and citizens listen to the news every day, reported by you. Government's handling of this is actually shaping citizens' opinion. So you can see the drop from 2022, 58% to 2025, 44%. A 14 percentage points drop on the yellow line. Freddie, would you like to conclude, please?
58% say countries heading in the wrong direction. So this is a majority of citizens that say the country is heading in the wrong direction. Now, in 2022, when we last collected the data, 67% of citizens said it was going in the wrong direction. Now it's 58%. It's dropped by 9 points, but nevertheless, it's still a majority of citizens that are saying that we're heading in the wrong direction. Another, approval ratings on a number of indicators have declined compared to 2022. So when you look at 2022 and you look at now, we see improvement of living standards for the poor, creating jobs, narrowing the gap between the rich and the poor. How citizens approve of government's handling of this has gone down. And as you saw through the slides on corruption, corruption has shown the steepest decline when it comes to government performance, citizens' evaluations of government performance. That the approval ratings on that has declined by 14 percentage points. But on the other hand, there are people that believe the perception that government is doing a good job in tackling inflation, in managing the economy, as well as social cohesion. That's improved over the last 3 years. That's something we actually need to show as well. So thank you so much.
And Student Complaint Services and a lecturer of literature in the Language Studies Department and Gender Justice modules in the Institute of Gender Research. I'll start with you.
Thank you, Vivian. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much in the country. And I suppose it's quite a mouthful to digest after seeing some of the figures and some demonstrated on the graphs there of where we see an increase and where we see a decrease in these. Having the survey and Josephine said that it addresses policies. And this is the time where these test the temperature in order to know exactly where we're going, the direction we're going, can be addressed so that things get better when people feel where we are now, 2025. And I'm looking at your sample size of 1,200 people, very respondents. It would have been interesting to know, like, communities or localities within urban, where the respondents are from, and communities and localities within the rural as well, and which regions around the country. It's timely and it's, in effect, it is, I think it's, and people who are within leadership and people who are within governance to be able to do things that would either change how people have felt.
Morning all, and thank you to IGR and Afrobarometer for this. I think it's a very important piece of work. I looked at Afrobarometer. We have a challenge thinking about the wider context within which we operate, so how we support these kinds of initiatives going forward. But that's for another day perhaps. Now, in terms of this perception survey, they highlight 5 things for me, which we can perhaps delve into. So one is trust. It seems to me that around us. The second is empowerment, or say the lack control. Third, there seems to be a disconnect between the rulers ruled of society, the poorest, and I think about the middle class, the intelligentsia, Fatsutakis of this world. I don't think we feel.
When you look at the exchange rate, it has been relatively stable for over a year. Yesterday, I had a discussion with a few people from the private sector, and when you speak to the private sector in elections, citizens as well, we have to be the ones just for an example, GST, one of the revenue area say, hey, please give me an NRA receipt. I want my NRA receipt. It's not because I'm not being anything from the NRA, but it's because I want to support the government in terms of mobilizing resources. Because when government educational facilities, all of this needs funding. So if government is not raising enough funding, then that means they have to go to the market. And when they go to the market, that means they have to put pressure.
In a report that indicates that citizens are saying that government is going on the wrong direction, and then we are calling for active citizens' participation. I think it's a moment for us to
promoting the rule of law and also looking into the issues that affect households, that affect people. So it cuts across. So that means those with education, those that are educated, they are like less represented. Will it change? Is it that because our focus has been on the grassroots, or because this came out as technology, we will look into that? But part of that, I think, in the area of police, we know the police, they have like a couple of departments.
How can we get that working group that we can see to work together to hold government accountable?
It's going to be business as usual. These numbers will remain the same. If we say, I'm not indicting the media person, but if we say we are not going to change our behavior, because we know journalists who